Hi, I'm Di with Sister Chicks Quilting. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to cut into some fabric that I have been just a little bit hoarding. I'm so excited to cut into it and show you what it is. And then I don't think I'm going to show you. Maybe I will at the end. I don't know. But next week's video, I'm going to be making another quilt out of the same fabric. Let's get started. Okay. The fabric line is one that I adore. I bet you recognize it. It's called Belle Isles by Minnick & Simpson. Now, Blue Block, whom you met in last week's video, here's the jelly roll, gave me this for my birthday, or was it Christmas? I don't recall, but I have been keeping it safe on my shelf. In fact, right across the way, I look at it all the time and I just get excited. I have some other pieces that I bought that I want to show you. I have this for the background and I have this for the background. Remember I told you I'm making two quilts? You need a lot of background. So one's going to be polka dot, one's not. You know, I have these two pieces from the line, and I'm not sure I'm going to use them. I may save these for the backing on one of the quilts. And then what else do I have? Oh, I've purchased all of these pieces. Aren't they just gorgeous? I never would have thought that pink would look so good with red, white, and blue, but my heavens, it certainly works. This is the main print. It's got these big cabbage roses on them, so beautiful. And it comes in red, white, and blue. Oh my, and I have a little bit of it in the red. I have a big cut of it in the blue, enough for a border, and it's going around the border of my quilt. And then, look at this one. I have it in the light blue too, and guess what? This is going to be next week's video, and I think I'm not going to tell you what the pattern is, but that's going to be the border, and it's going to be for Michelle. She loves the fabric line too. Then I have this one print, this print in blue, this print in paisley, and then the little berries in the light blue. Plus, I have what Patricia gave me, the layer cake and the jelly roll. I can't wait to get started. My quilt will be made with 3 blocks. The 3 blocks that I'm using are the double sawtooth star block. Now this is a star inside a star, and I'm going to use the Ohio star. Shout out to all my friends in Ohio. You know who you are. And I'm going to be using a 9 patch, but the 9 patch has a twist. It's going to be made up of 4 patches. So I think it's going to be fun. It's all up here and a little bit on paper. And I will have the pattern if you'd like to make it. I'll put it below so anybody can make it. Let's see if it works out first though, okay? All right, let's cut fabric. I'm going to be making 9 patches to put between the star blocks, and each 9 patch will be made from 4 patches. That's what I'm going to use these for. Let me share my quilt math with you. There are 12 2-inch blocks in 2-inch blocks in a large 9-patch block. And there's 17 of those 9-patch blocks in the quilt. So that's 204 squares I need. And if you divide that by 42 inches, which is the width of one of these strips, you get 4.85. But I'm going to round that up to 5. So I need 5 strips. However, I'm going to add my twist. I want it scrappy looking. So I'm going to take half of one of each of these 42-inch strips and make them 21-inch strips. And I am going to use the other half in the other quilt that I'm making. So I am just going to cut these. This is my final selection. These are actually 11 strips, and I will save the other half of those for the other quilt, and I will use these in the other quilt as well. These are unopened strips, or uncut. This is my background fabric. Isn't that pretty? This whole line is just so beautiful, and I just bleed red, white, and blue when I sew with it. I'm going to sew each one of those half strips onto one of these strips. So I'll strip piece, then cut them. I have 3 strips here sewn together, and I've kind of nested them where the seam is. And I'm going to give myself a straight edge. I've actually lined up the ruler with the seam, almost like a block lock ruler. That's how they kind of snug up. Then I'm going to turn them around because I am not ambidextrous like April Story. Have you noticed she cuts with both hands? How efficient is that? I want 2.5-inch strips, and I'm going to be very careful that I lay them all up like this, and I'm going to slice this whole row into 2.5-inch strips. As I'm doing it, I'm careful to line up this line on the ruler with the seam on the quilt. This is the block that I'm putting between my 2 star blocks. It's kind of an Irish chain sort of a block, but I'm making it out of the jelly roll strips. So you saw my strips earlier I was cutting. I cut them down and I did some chain piecing on them, and I've just had one big massive chain piecing party to get all of the units done for this block. I have to do 17 of them for this quilt, and I have them in little packets here with the center block on top. Then I have the four patches with white on white, and then a big stack of the background patches. I'm just going to finish up. Again, have a big party. If you want to join me, come along. I used the jelly roll to make the 4-patch. There's 5 4-patches on here. And then I used the measurement of the 4-patch to make a 4-inch square to put this on. Actually, it's 4.5 inches. And that's how I made these blocks. When it came to the Ohio stars, what I used was the layer cake. However, to make this, you need 2 5.5-inch square blocks, and that's one for the points, and then you need a 5.5-inch square block for this part and for this part. And I took them out of layer cakes, but you know that 5.5 inches plus 5.5 inches equals 11. Here's how I cut my Ohio stars from a layer cake or a 10-inch square block. I have 2 more Ohio stars to make. I am going to cut this and I need 2 5.5-inch squares. And what that does is leave me 4.5 inches on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. But I'm not going to get a 5.5-inch square out of this piece, no matter how hard I try, because it's only 10 inches. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get 2 5.5-inch squares out of this piece. What I'm going to do is stitch it together. And this looks like a good place to join it. First, I'm going to cut this so it matches the width. And then I'm going to get a 4.5-inch square out of this piece. I'll take this to my machine and sew it up real quick. And to get 2 5.5-inch squares, I can do that now. For those of you that are wondering or thinking I don't want a seam in my block, I had to go looking for some seams because this quilt is full of it. Let me show you this block. Can you find the seam on this block? You can't. I looked and looked and looked, and I'll show it to you. It's right here. But truthfully, there's so much going on that you'll never notice it. In fact, even if you're looking for it, you'll have a hard time. I looked at all 15 blocks that I have finished because I know I've got at least 10 of them made from layer cake pieces, and they all have seams in them, and this was the only one I could find. So that's how I'm going to use my fabric, because that's what I had. You have 2 blocks that are the same color. Those are going to be your points. Then you have a background block the same size, 5.5 inches. And you put those background blocks, you put that background block face down, and then you're going to have, and I just call this the square block. You put this face down also. This is the one that I chose to use. And did you guys notice that there's a seam in that one too? You can see on the back, obviously. So you put it down. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch those. I'm not going to have 2 seams on a block. And then using a heat erasing pin or any type of a pin, you go ahead and mark it from point to point on the diagonal. And I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch on this side, a 1/4 inch on this side, and come back and see you in a minute. I actually needed 2 more blocks, so I'm making a couple. But when you get the block sewn and stitched, you cut them right on that line you drew. Going to look like this. You have a half square triangle. And I actually have 2 half square triangles with a background piece and 2 half square triangles with what I call the square piece. And I'll show you where that square piece goes in a minute. By the way, I'm going to press them both with the main portion, the blue portion, facing up. That way they're going to nest. Take one blue and white one, or blue and a background, with a blue and a red one, and you want to nest those seams. You can just fill it with your fingers and then make sure that the whole block is lined up. Now, the pattern for this makes them bigger than what you need, so you can trim them down. And you want to line it up like so and draw another line. Now, the reason you do this is because you're going to make what we call a 1/4 square triangle. You're going to want to have 4 of those blocks. I'm going to take this to the machine to sew, and then I'm going to nest this one and do the same thing. I'm also going to nest these 2. I'm going to make the reds opposite, and always test. I'm forever turning over my block like this and making sure I have what I'm looking for. And then we're just going to sew them up. Before I cut this, I'm always going to fold it back and make sure I have that block like I want it. Just a good habit to get into. I've got a set of these that I cannot use. Ooh, what's that? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I had one on top of the other and I cut the tip off. Holy cow. I have just ruined this 4 set of blocks. So I'm going to make another one. I can't believe I did that. Dough. Be careful when you cut. Make sure you don't have a block underneath. Good grief, Diane. I'm going to use this set to show you how I finished that block. At this point, I'm going to trade rulers. I'm going to trade this one for my 4.5-inch block lock ruler. I'm also using a rotating cutting mat. So I lay this down and I put the line on the block lock, and I'm gonna line this on my block. I'm going to keep moving it until all 4 corners are on corners of the block. Can you see this? That's what I want. And then I just trim. I have a perfect 4.5-inch square block. That's one reason this quilt is so easy to put together, because the blocks are... Now this is the fun part. All you have to do is stitch it up like a 9-patch. Here, 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 and then here, here, and here. I'm showing the back of this to you because I want you to see how I press them. On this block, I press these seams going out towards the outside. And on the center, I guess I should call it a strip, I press these going into this side. So that way they'll nest. But also, another reason is it's going to lessen the bulk. If this block here were to be pressed this way, it would have a lot of bulk in it and it would be flippy. But if you take a look, it's just naturally laying flat. And there's no seams on this block, so this is an easier block to have it lay flat. And that's the logic behind that. And on this one, the center block has no seams. So it's easy to fold over, while this one that has the seams here and here and here and here would kind of fight being folded over. Let me sew these together. Now when I pin them, I'm not going to pin them from this side. I'm going to pin them from this side. And you know why, right? See my fingers pointing to the 2 points? You bet. I'm going to pin those points to make sure they are perfect. Stick a pin through the point. Oh my gosh, it's because I'm doing this on camera, I can't do it. So can you see that I stuck a pin right through that point? And then if you flip it over and look on the back side, there's that pin coming out right where it's supposed to be. So I know that that one is going to look good. And we'll do the same on this side. The first thing I do is use my fingers to nest the seams inside. Drop a pin in that point. It can be just above or below it. I didn't nest very well. Oh my heavens. That pin is dull. It's not going through. There, now it's perfect. Let me show you what I do with dull pins. I throw them away, but this is what I do. I keep my old pill bottles and I put in it bent needles and this dull pin that wouldn't go through, bent pins, and I screw it on and I put it in my drawer. I keep it until it is full and then I throw it away. It has a child-proof lock on it. That way it's not going to poke anybody or hurt anybody. So that's what I do with bent pins, broken needles, etc. How I dispose of them, because it is kind of a pain. Okay, back to sewing. And that, my friends, is an easy Ohio star block. Again, this is 12.5 inches square, and I've got one more to make because I got the tip off that one. And then I'm going to put this quilt together. Now that I have all of my blocks made, and I've got them marked by rows, and I wrote right on them with the heat disappearing pin. That's, of course, a number 6. I'm going to have a party where I sew them all together. I have all of my blocks by row in order of left to right. And it's an easy block to sew. Well, let me just show you. Because see how the top block where the points on the star match? I want you to be able to see everything on the wall. It's kind of funny how the light's hitting it. The colors are actually lighter than they appear in the camera. But this is the center of the quilt. It's not all sewn together. And there's row number 7 on the floor. What do you think? I am in love with this quilt. I'm going to get it sewn up because I can't wait to show you. Well, I'm going to show you right now the borders. This is going to be the inner border, and it will be thin, probably 1 inch. And then I'm going to put a 3-inch row of this white. And this is the pièce de résistance. That will be the outer border. Isn't that going to be gorgeous? Red, white, and blue. I'm so excited to get this quilt done and get this border on. I can't wait. On a quilt like this, where the star points are going to be right next to the white, it's going to be glaring if you cut them off. This is my top. And notice I have pins everywhere. What I've done on this side is I've pinned the points. So there's a star right behind these 2 pins. And when I'm sewing, I use where the pin goes in at the top for my point. Then on the next one, Then I match my corners, you know, my seams, and they're nested, and then I've got a star on top. So this is going to go a little bit slower, but I'm still excited. I'm looking at the clock because I have a nail. I want to get this top done before I hit my nail appointment. I might not. The first thing I do when I sew a row like this that is just full of star points is fold it open and take a look. That one looks perfect. And this one is up just a little bit, not quite on the perfect line, but next to it. This one has a pin in it. Whoops, I ran over a pin. This one looks good. This one looks good. And I have to tell you, I've got a pin in my mouth, sorry. I have to tell you, I don't know if it's because I'm an old lady, or for those of you who will argue and say, you're not old, I'm older, I'm mature. Let's say I'm mature. I think that this is exciting. Can you see a 1/4 inch on the end of that star point? I sure can't because it's not there, but there's one there. So I'll do a quick little repair. I'm going to have to unpick 2 seams here. The one right next to the star, and I'm going to have to do it without making the star look wonky because you still want it to remain or to retain its aspect, you know. Okay, let's see if I can fix it by taking a deeper seam between these two. That's a pretty good 1/4 inch seam there. So here's the problem. Check this out. Do you see that I trimmed it badly? I didn't have my square up ruler here on top of this point. I had it off to the side. So to get this block to go straight, I'm going to have to take this seam out about to here, and I am going to sew it so it ends at the point right there. I'm hoping you can see that point. That is the issue. So I think my block lock ruler must have slipped, or I was being sloppy. Here I go, taking this apart. You know, there's got to be one in every quilt, right? And to make this repair correctly, I'm not going to want this pressed fold in it. So I'm going to the ironing table and I'm going to press this flat. All right, since I'm getting so good at points, I mean repairing points, I'm going to hold this up so you can see. I have these 2 pieces and I'm going to put them right together. See how that's laying down on top? So those end pieces match, and I'm going to sew right down here to that point. Points everywhere, right? Okay, here we go. I'm actually sewing along you should be able to see my repair on this blue piece of fabric. You see that that's not a 1/4 inch seam? It doesn't matter. It's going to give me the 1/4 inch that I need. And my other little trick is fray check. So if I'm using that method, or if I have a seam that absolutely has to be so close, I'll fray check it. This one actually doesn't necessarily need fray check. There's not going to be any stress on it. So now I'm going to fold it over and press it. And it looks like this. And there's still a little uneven corner, but this is where I'm going. I'm going to this end. So this will just kind of be cut off in the seam, this extra little corner, okay? I'm going to slip a pin in. So can you see where I sewed? And ladies and gentlemen, check it out. What do I have? But a 1/4 inch. And that's why they call me the point doctor. Sorry, bad joke. I am pinning row number 4 together with row number 3. And I don't need to tell you this because you wouldn't know, but I went and got my nails done. Look what I got. Here. I know, kind of silly, huh? But it's close to Flag Day. I'm working on this quilt. I also want you to know that I am going on vacation. And this video will come out, but the following Friday, guys, I'm just not going to make it. However, there will be one the Friday after that. So look for that one, okay? And I will have a really good time while I'm gone. I am pinning the last row, number 7, onto number 6. And all I'm doing is matching the stars. It's wonderful. And you know, I've only had that one repair to do. Oh, I lied. I've had 2 repairs to do where my point wasn't quite 1/4 inch. To me, that's vital. All right. This is going really fast. I'm going to have this quilt in previewable state real soon. This is it. What do you think? The lights are not showing the true colors. This fabric line is actually lighter than not, but it goes all the way to the floor. It's 84 inches and 60 wide. It's going to have some nice borders, and that's what I'm going to cut right now. I figured out all of my border math, and that's what I'm cutting. I'm going to need 8 of these guys. Now this second border, I'm cutting at 3 inches, and it will go on at 2.5 inches. Did you see me back tack it? That is because it's the last seam I'm going to sew on this quilt. I'd like to send some heartfelt thank yous to Mary Ann C. and Pauline M. Thank you so much for the cup of herb tea. I appreciate you supporting my channel. Patricia Ime, you liked all of my quilts for different reasons. That's just like me. Each quilt is so individual. I do, however, have a few very, very favorite. Can you guess which ones they are? Hey, Marty Barnes. I'm glad you enjoyed hearing the engineer. You know, truthfully, I think the engineer likes to be heard. And then Janine Pfeiffer, I'm glad you loved the video. Thank you very much. I'd like to give a shout out to Maureen at The Opinionated Quilter. She has a YouTube channel that she's working on growing, and twice she's featured me and talked about my videos. Maureen, I really appreciate it. So if you have a chance, go check out her video. I am so excited to have this quilt done. I'm going to take you outside and show you pictures in the outside light because the red, white, and blue will be phenomenal pictured there. So let's go. So my takeaways for this quilt are, the blocks were very, very easy. Just a little bit of math. You don't have to make yours as big as mine. The first block I used was an Irish chain block, and it was made with a 2.5-inch strip jelly roll, which makes it super easy. And the second block was the Ohio Star, a classic block that's been around forever. Now, I am going to put links to the patterns down below in my description, so you could put these pieces together and make yourself a quilt like mine. It's not that hard. They're 12-inch blocks. You don't have to make yours as big as I made mine. However, you can do whatever you want because it's your quilt. Another takeaway, pay attention to those points. I know you get sick of me preaching points and 1/4-inch seam. However, if you want a point and you don't want to cut it off, it's kind of been fun making sure I get them all in there. And I don't mind that. Thank you so much for watching my video. Next week, I'm going to be on vacation, so there won't be a video. But there will be in 2 weeks. So you could use the time to catch up on some of these videos or peruse my channel and watch some more videos. But in the meantime, you have a great next 2 weeks, and I'll see you in 2. Bye.